All right, today we're diving into a fascinating and sometimes misunderstood topic: men who regularly engage in oral intimacy with their partners. This discussion goes beyond the physical act and delves into the psychology, motivations, emotional factors, and relationship dynamics behind it. By the end, you'll have a deeper understanding of why some men prioritize this form of connection and how it impacts relationships on multiple levels. Let's start with a big question: why do some men prioritize giving pleasure through oral intimacy? For many men, it's about more than physical pleasure. It's a way of building a deep bond, showing care, and creating an emotional connection that can be as important as physical satisfaction. Psychologists describe this as a love language, a unique form of communication where acts of service, physical touch, or expressions of care strengthen bonds in ways words sometimes can't. Men who prioritize their partner's pleasure in this way often feel a heightened sense of intimacy. In psychology, this is described as positive reinforcement, where both partners feel validated and fulfilled through mutual enjoyment. This type of connection can lead to a stronger relationship because it's based on unselfish giving. Men who engage in oral intimacy often feel a sense of purpose, validation, and pride in making their partner happy. And this satisfaction reinforces the desire to continue building trust and closeness. In fact, studies show that intimate acts that focus on one partner's pleasure, like oral intimacy, can lead to deeper emotional bonds. Psychologists explain this phenomenon as reciprocal altruism. When a person performs an act of generosity without expecting anything in return, it can create a cycle of fulfillment and connection, allowing both partners to feel valued and appreciated. But what does this act say about vulnerability? Engaging in oral intimacy often requires a level of vulnerability where the person giving puts their partner's needs above their own. This act of giving is, in itself, a form of trust. In psychology, we call this emotional security, a feeling that you're in a safe and open space where both partners are willing to be vulnerable with each other. Men who are open to these experiences often experience stronger bonds and healthier, more supportive relationships. Let's dig a bit deeper and look at the biological aspect. Did you know that when people engage in intimate acts like this, their bodies release oxytocin, the hormone known as the bonding hormone? Oxytocin is powerful because it's associated with feelings of attachment, warmth, and trust. So this isn't just about emotional connection, it's also about a biological response that strengthens relationships by creating a sense of closeness and security. And it's not just oxytocin at play. Research has shown that acts of giving and focusing on a partner's pleasure can trigger the release of serotonin and dopamine. These chemicals create feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, and happiness. So for men who prioritize oral intimacy, the act itself can lead to a chemical reward that reinforces the behavior, making it more satisfying and fulfilling. Now let's add another layer. Oral intimacy can boost both partners' confidence and self-esteem. Studies have shown that intimacy is a form of affirmation, helping people feel valued, attractive, and desired. Men who make this a priority often find that their partners feel more confident, more connected, and more appreciated. This mutual boost in confidence can become a positive cycle, where each partner feels good about themselves and, by extension, about the relationship. One fascinating aspect is what psychologists call mirroring, is when people subconsciously reflect each other's emotions, creating a deeper sense of connection. When one partner feels pleasure, it's often mirrored by the other, leading to a shared emotional experience. For men who focus on their partner's pleasure, They're not only creating a physical connection but also satisfying a deep-seated need for unity and mutual understanding. At this point, let's talk about attachment styles. Attachment theory suggests that people develop different styles of connecting based on early experiences. Men who are secure in their attachment style may feel more comfortable with oral intimacy because it requires vulnerability and openness. For those with avoidant attachment styles, however, this level of closeness might feel intimidating. Recognizing these styles can help partners understand each other's boundaries and comfort zones, creating more fulfilling connections. Let's dispel a common myth that intimate acts like these are only for younger relationships. Studies reveal that couples who continue exploring intimacy throughout their relationship often have stronger bonds and higher satisfaction levels. Psychologists call this relationship novelty by exploring different ways of connecting, including oral intimacy. Couples keep their bond alive and discover new layers of connection. This debunks the idea that only certain types of relationships can benefit from intimate acts. In fact, long-term couples may find these experiences particularly meaningful. Let's look at empathy. Psychologists describe empathy as the ability to understand and share another person's feelings. Men who engage in oral intimacy often score higher on empathy scales because they're in tune with their partner's desires, focusing on their pleasure as an act of care. This empathy doesn't just make for better intimate experiences, it fosters a sense of mutual respect, compassion, and closeness in the relationship. Cultural conditioning also plays a role. Across cultures, views on oral intimacy differ, with some seeing it as a norm and others viewing it as taboo. Over time, though, younger generations have opened up these conversations, normalizing and embracing personal expression and satisfaction. For men in cultures where openness is celebrated, they may feel more empowered to explore these forms of connection without shame or judgment. In addition to cultural factors, let's consider myths around male and female intimacy preferences. Many assume that men are solely focused on physical pleasure, but studies show that emotional satisfaction is equally important. Men who engage in oral intimacy often feel that they're deepening the emotional side of the relationship, focusing on connection rather than just physical satisfaction. Now, what are some practical ways that partners can foster open communication around intimacy? Psychologists recommend creating a judgment-free space to discuss boundaries, desires, and comfort levels. Couples who talk openly about these topics tend to have healthier, happier relationships because both partners feel understood and respected. It's not just about the act itself, it's about building a safe space where each person's needs are heard and valued. This topic also touches on something known as self-expansion theory. Self-expansion is the idea that we grow and evolve when we try new things with our partners, like exploring different forms of intimacy. When couples engage in these experiences, they're actively expanding their comfort zones, which can lead to a deeper, more resilient relationship. This theory suggests that by continuing to grow together, couples find more meaning and satisfaction in their relationship. As we wrap up, let's consider the impact of shared vulnerability. Psychologists say that vulnerability is essential for intimacy because it requires both partners to let down their guard. When men engage in intimate acts that focus on their partner's pleasure, they're opening themselves to connection on a deeper level, saying, "I'm here for you. I want to make you happy." This level of openness is what creates true closeness, a bond that feels safe and secure. In the end, intimacy is a complex, multifaceted experience that goes beyond physical pleasure. For men who prioritize oral intimacy, it's often a journey of giving, connecting, and building trust. By understanding the psychological, biological, and emotional factors at play, couples can create more meaningful, fulfilling relationships. This isn't just about a physical act, it's about creating a space where both partners feel loved, valued, and deeply connected.